All right, we're going to go live on a Saturday night. Hopefully, we'll be able to get some people in here, and hopefully, we'll have some results. What we're trying to do here, I'm trying to improve the lighting and the filming out here at my dealership, and hopefully, I can come up with a good stream, something that people can see. Hey, Greg, how are you this afternoon? I sort of say this morning, but I'll be on in the morning too. I've been. Hey Jeff, how are you? Thought I would jump on this afternoon. I'm out here at the Napa store, and I'm experimenting with some new lighting that I got in, and hopefully it will improve my videos. I hope the videos uh, are coming through good and loud and clear and good visual. That's what I'm trying to shoot for, and just trying to work every single day. Lights look great. Okay, good. You can see this old mug. Yeah. I, sometimes some of the imperfections probably need to be hidden. Hey, Ponka, how are you doing tonight? Yeah. Sometimes your imperfections need to be hidden, and lights are good and even. Yeah. I hope it's not bouncing too much bright light off this lacking of hair up here. That's one thing. Uh, I get up here and my hair's a lot thinner than it used to be years ago. So I don't have the full head of hair that I had back in my youth. Of course, nobody does. Most people lose a little bit here and there, and you're not going to look the same. I'm doing good. I hope you're doing good too, Ponka. I'm out here. Uh, been a very busy week. We had I'm trying to think what the highlights. The highlight. We've just been busy trying to get new trucks on. I've gotten the new trucks that were implemented into the system. We're getting all the trucks that have the forward collision avoidance system on them and everything. So we're working hard to get that type truck uh, put back into the system. It's getting video quality is great. That's good. That's great. Uh, that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to each time I try to sign on. I hope that my videos are going to look good and my audio too. I'm trying to improve. Like I said, YouTube tells you that that's what drives people to your videos. That you've got to have something that they want to see and hear, and of course your content. And I hope my content always tries to well, good, good. And I hope my content is, something everybody likes to. I like to get out here and chat with everybody. That, we're my situation, of course, is talking trucking and a few things like that. And hopefully we can be entertaining and keep the people, keep giving the people something they want to hear. That's my goal every time I get on here, and hopefully it's entertaining, and you know I like to chat with the guys. I mean, most of you guys out there I've chatted with a lot over the past 6 months to a year, and it's fun to be able to see. Hey, JC. Well, that's good. I've enjoyed watching your videos about that. JC's got the homemade record. You're gonna build one from scratch. I was showing Larry, JC. I was showing Larry. I said, "Yeah, JC, the part I do like part of it there with the airbags. Uh, I mean, that to me, that's a good way to lift it up. Uh, the stability of it. Of course, you'd have to have it. I mean, ours has got a bigger frame than what you're using on that one. I don't know what it is. We're using on ours. We've got about a gosh, I want to say a 12-inch channel. Well, not channel. It's square tubing. It's about I want to say a 3 or 4 by 12, and it's really stout. Well, hey, Chris, how are you? I see you've had that 55 out running around. I watched a little bit of that today. Most people that if you looked at Chris had 4 or 5 videos that I think he put out today. Got the old 55 running. Was it 55 or 56? I forgot which one it was. But he got that running today. JC's been out helping the Amish. I saw him. He uploaded one about the Amish. Yeah. Hit my button there. Get my videos up there a little bit. Yeah. That was it a Bel Air? I couldn't remember. It was a fit, or did they even have Bel Airs back then? It's 56. Okay, I couldn't remember 56, 55. I've had a little bit of all those. Yeah, on a 1-inch pin. Yeah, that's. I noticed that. I was telling Larry about that. I said, yeah, lifts. You got the 3 bags that lift it up, and then you put your pin placement where you want it, and then you got your height and everything. We're running ours off of a hydraulic. I'm trying to think how you'd explain ours. You've seen ours out there, I think, JC, and I want to get an undertow. Is what I want to get, but boy, those things are expensive. Those every time I look at it, I think they're 35 to 40,000. My nephew just got another one. They're pretty expensive. Yeah, yeah. Uh, it's one of those situations when you got it. I guess that's just a swinging uh, a swinging piece back there. You want to have that stable enough. We put some extra bracing on ours so we can keep it good and stable back there. 78. That's the whole truck and everything. Okay. Ooh, I started to say 78 for just the unit would be way too much. Um, yeah, that's what kind of unit is it, JC? Yeah, what kind of unit is it on? Yeah, but I mean, I guess not the swing, the pivot back there where it pivots. It's on a Century, 25-ton bed. Okay. Yeah, I wonder if he'd sell the unit out from under it because I got a better unit to. I mean, I don't need the truck. I need to find somebody with a good used unit like that where I can buy the unit and not and just hook it up to one of the trucks I got because I got a 2006 Freightliner that I overhauled. It's the not the Columbia. What's the next one down? Not the Century either. It's the other one. It's the long nose Freightliner. Um, gosh, what is that called, guys? Help me out here. But that's what I'd like to make a record because it's got a good long wheelbase and everything. Uh, it's got a C15 cat in it too. Yeah, classic. That's what I'm trying to think of. That's what. Yeah, I got a 2006 classic. Um, I got a 2006 classic that's got a C15 with a 13 speed, and that one to me would make a perfect record. It's not much for getting fuel economy. That's the reason I took it off the road for a couple of reasons because I didn't want but a couple of guys driving it, and because the fuel economy is not there. You won't get but about 5 miles to the 5.5 miles to the gallon on it pulling loads. And these new ones I'm getting 7.5, and doesn't sound like much, but 2 miles per gallon on these continuous. Oh, hey RVT, how are you doing? Yeah, I'm out here trying out. As I was telling you the other day, I got some lights, and everything. I'm trying to try out my videos, make sure that the videos are looking good. I hope it looks good back to you. No, you don't run a cat for fuel economy, that's for sure. Yeah, and that's what we got. I mean, that particular one, like I said, has got uh, we've got uh, uh, a C15, and I would say it's right at 500 horsepower, 475, 500. I can't remember what we've got it in, but it's a good unit. It's a good unit and everything. And I'd like to. I don't want to put it back in the. I mean, it's nice and everything on the inside, and yeah, yeah. You have to check out Chris's old cars and everything. Um, but yeah, it'll make a nice wrecker for us because of the fact that we can pull just about anything we need with that. Now, JC's the international guy, Jed. JC definitely is the internet. I don't know. He's if you he's probably he'll either sell you one or buy one probably. JC has plenty of international. He's an international and Ford expert, so he can probably help you. Yeah, yeah. That it's. I'm about to lose my train of thought there. Uh, yeah, on the record, like I was going to say, if I could find me the undertow, that's where I'd like to go with. Is put that on that Freightliner Classic because it's a nice enough truck, and we spent a good bit of money overhauling that thing, and I just don't want to put anybody else in it, and it's got the power, and I don't want to have to cut it back. I have everything that I got with my FedEx is cut back to 65 miles an hour, and I don't want to have to do that on this Classic, and it'll get down the road and go and get us down there and back. Okay, you got okay. Yeah, I'm trying to keep up with that. But Jay, you guys, if you want an international, like I said, if you need an international, JC usually has them, and he's the expert out here on internationals as far as anybody that I trust, and that's he's worked on enough, and he definitely could help you on something. I've looked at a lot of his projects he's had over the last few years, and so he's worked on a many. I hate to think how many internationals JC has worked on, more than I like. I'm not an international fan. I've actually got two that I'm going to be selling. I got two internationals I want to be selling. I've always had. I don't know. I got. I see. Now you're working. Is that one you're working on an M11? I jumped off of it the other day. That that Cummins in that international, was that an M11 you're working on? Because we got issues with two M11s right now. I've got one with a blown head gasket and another one that uh, exhaust problems and maybe head gasket on it too. Oh, it's ISM. Trying to avoid CDLs. Well, anything, yeah, you don't. I think if you get up to air brakes, you got to have. I can't remember all the rules on that now. If you get up to air brakes and it's over 26,000 pounds, I think that constitutes CDLs. I don't know for sure. I've not been that lower on the. I've had chauffeur license and CDLs since 1971, so I they've changed those regulations over the years. I remember when I had to transfer. I had to. I think it was in the 80s, around 87. No, before that, about 86. I think I they or it might have been 87. They mandated that we transition our chauffeur's license into CDLs, and everybody had to take CDL test, and you got a national CDL license in. Because prior to that, I don't know if you guys know or not, we used to. I mean, we had guys that they had to lose their driver's license in North Carolina, and they'd run to South Carolina and get a South Carolina chauffeur's license and keep on trucking, you know. And it wasn't the same 10, and then M11, and then ISM. Okay, yeah, but yeah, it wasn't the same as it is right now. I mean, like I said, we used to jump around. I have a brother that was very bad in that. It wasn't his chauffeur's license. It was just his regular license. But he lost his North Carolina license. But he had just moved to South Carolina. Got him South Carolina license, fresh on that. Lived down in South Carolina, right across the state line, for about 2 or 3 years, and then he had already had enough tickets that he basically was about to lose his South Carolina license. And at that time, his license his year was up, so he was able to go back and get North Carolina license. I wouldn't. I can if you were to take his violations he's had over the past 30 years, he would probably be 6 foot tall. He never knew how to slow down, or he always was a Richard Petty or a Bobby Allison behind the wheel on a 2-lane road, and you can't do that. So that's the way my brother, just older than me, is. Yeah, well, I have a friend that's doing that, Chris, about the CDLs. He's avoided that by getting. He's got a farm tag on his dump truck. He bought a dump truck, and I was saying something to him because it has air brakes, and I said, "Well, it looks like you're going to have to go get CDLs." And he had actually tried, and he went over, and he's a policeman. He's a policeman, and he's getting ready to retire in about 2 or 3 years. And he went over to the license bureau to update it and get CDLs, and they told him, "Get out of here! You got a farm truck, hadn't you?" And he said, "Yeah." He said, "You got a farm tag?" And I said, "Yeah." He said, "Don't bother with it." So unless he gets really, really heavy or something, he's exempt. Farm tags are exempt on a lot of things, and will get you by a lot of those uh, problems you have, going through it. Now it's state to state, so you don't want to push it too far. But he was told by other people at the DMV to not worry about it, and him a policeman too, and him being a policeman, of course, he's going to probably have, you know, every time they flip out their driver's license, they will have that badge right there on their billfold, so that they will get, you know, don't pay $200, you get a free pass around go, or I guess you might say, that sort of stuff. Yeah, the farm tags, and if you can do it and get by with it, that's the way to go, because there's no sense in paying all these high taxes and high tags if you can get around it. I've got to buy. See, this is one thing that gets me right now. This time of year, I get a big lump in my stomach, because I've got to go buy, I think, 38 tags at $1,800 a piece just in the next few weeks. So, hey, Everyday Fleet Tech. Yeah. Hey, Philip, how are you? Yeah, I've got to, you can kind of, I don't even know what that is. Let me figure that. Yep. I don't know if y'all can see that or not, but there's what I'm going to be buying in just tags to pay the government their fair share in just a few weeks. It hurts. I can tell you, I don't care how much money you make. You pay out a chunk like that, you go, ugh. But we got to do it. It's part of doing business. And You just got to you bite the bullet, bite the bullet, and yeah, yeah, give the old government their fair share, uh, and then some, and then some. That's for sure. But it's when you get out here and you hustle and everything, you just got to grin and bear it. These things are just part of the business. They're not for the weak at heart. I can tell you that. I mean, the person that uh, it's exactly right. If we didn't make it, we wouldn't have it to pay it, and it it gets that's the thing that I see so many of the young truckers that get out there and they'll get extended and everything, and they're thinking, well, I'm rolling in the cash and everything, and you'll see them out here on the tube and everything too, and they're happy as they can be. They've made a couple of big checks, everything's hunky dory, and then bam, things slow down a little bit. Bam, they got big expenses, taxes, tags, insurance. I mean, that's a fortunately for me, and I will say this as a FedEx contractor, it's either fortunate or misfortunate. We pay weekly on our insurance. Of course, it'll choke a goat what I pay on insurance each week, but I would rather pay it weekly than try to. On Phillips asking how the Napa store is doing pretty good. I can always do better. Uh, we're trying to implement a few things and uh, we're trying to get out to more garages and a few other things. And I'm going to have to bring on some other personnel probably to help bolster the sales. But that's part of doing it. Well, hey, budget tools. Yeah, they all go broke, and that's exactly right. And and it's you can't get out there and one day you're high on the hog, you're spending it right and left, and then the next thing you know, you're out of business. And they you will see these. I mean, I don't have to point out anybody. Most of y'all have seen some of these channels, and you'll see the guys either go in and out of business because of the fact that they're not structured enough to realize that's not their money that you can go out and frivolously uh, go out and buy tools, toolboxes, extra tools that you don't need, just something you want to have, uh, or everything should have a purpose. I mean, I would love to go out. I mean, I was talking just a few minutes ago about the undercarriage uh, wrecker. I'd love to be able to go out there and do it and justify it right now. I have a record. I have all these things that I've got already. And at this point, I cannot justify it. Now, I've got things in place, like I've got the unit, I've got the power unit, the truck, but I'm looking for a deal. I'm always trying to look for the right deal. Yeah, and JC's talking about it. You got to manage that money. You can't act like that you're a millionaire one day and then you're a pauper the next day. You've got to sustain all that all the way through. You've got to be able to look at that and say, you know, I could go out there and buy myself a brand new pickup truck or brand new this, or brand new that. I don't buy my vehicles unless it's time for my vehicle to be upgraded or there's something, you know, some circumstance that I need one. Uh, and I try to buy them systematically and not emotionally. I mean, too many times people emotionally buy vehicles, and that's where they get themselves in trouble. I don't put emotion into mine. I have when I go out and buy trucks. I have these truck salesmen. Oh yeah, well we do this and do that. I said, don't be telling me all this. I don't need to hear it. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do it on my timetable. If you and they'll say, oh well, we might sell this or we want. Fine. If you sell that unit, that's fine. That's what you're supposed to do. My purpose is to buy that unit at the right price at the right time. So if you go out and you want to buy that, sell that unit, doesn't bother me. Doesn't bother me in the least. I was told years ago, don't worry about those units. They're like bananas. They come in bunches. There'll be one right behind the other one. So don't ever get the hots for these particular units and say, "Oh, I got to have them. I got to have them. That's that deal. I won't ever get that deal again." Maybe, maybe not, or it may be a better deal if you wait. So if you put that emotion into your purchases, you will probably cost yourself thousands of dollars. I mean, I know I used to as a younger uh, person, I would get a little more emotionally involved with it, but I quit that years ago. I mean, I learned from some old car salesmen, and well, actually, this gentleman that used to own this building when he was alive, Mr. Beam, very smart man. He had two smart brothers too. They owned a company called Carolina Freight. That company right behind me there, and that little trucks. Uh, Mr. Beam had about a fourth grade education, but he was very smart. He was a hustler. And I learned as much from working under him and under his tutelage when I was in my early 30s as I did anybody. And he told me a lot of things. And don't get all sold on the smell. That's what some of them do, and all the shininess of any vehicle. And see, one thing I do, and I'll tell you this. See, I bought these. How many did we buy? We bought 10. I think it's 10 or 12. I can't remember how many we bought in the last few weeks. I mean, they came in, and I'll tell you straight, these were used Walmart trucks. Well, first off, Walmart does good service, and I've looked them over, but I asked to let me see them prior to any kind of detailing. And I said, actually, if you'll work me a little bit better deal, save you money on the detailing and don't detail them. I said, we can detail to our specs and you won't have to spend that money because the dealerships, what they do, they do detail and that unit will look good. It looked great. I got hair on my glass there. Let me excuse me. Uh, and I've gotten up with select trucks who I bought from in Charlotte, and they know me, and they know what I like to do. I like to get my mechanics. We'll go over the trucks, look them over good, and check for any kind of rust and different defects that during this detailing process they cover them up. I mean, that's it, plain and simple. These trucks look like brand new trucks when you get them off those used lots like that. I don't want to buy them like that. I would much rather see where the oil leaks are, where the brake chambers maybe need repair, the airbags. I mean, you paint these airbags and these frames and all these wires, all that loom and everything that goes back through there. You can't tell it from a brand new unit. And what you've got, you actually have, uh, material that needs to be replaced. I mean, when they get through with it, that alternator on that truck looks like a brand new alternator. May not be. That turbo looks like a brand new turbo. May not be. I don't care to see this stuff detailed out. I want to see it raw. I want to see I want to see it as they got it if they'll let me. Now, not all dealers will let you do that because they don't want you to be able to negotiate that part of the deal. Uh, but I tell them straight up, here's what I want to do. I'm going to buy X amount of trucks. Here's what I'm doing. And I'm not giving them any bull. They're not giving me any bull. I'm not giving them any bull. This is what it looks like. This is the truck. I want this truck instead of this truck. I want this one looks okay. This one doesn't. So on down the line. I mean, usually when they're buying these, they're buying them in lots of 20, 30, 40 trucks. And, you know, being able to do that works out good for me. Well, I mean, you can get. I mean, every dealer has got. I've yet to see any dealer not have a pitch in there somewhere. I sold vehicles in my early days too. Back when I sold cars right here when it was a Ford dealership, I learned the trade. I learned what they did back then, and I don't need that. I mean, uh, I don't need all some of these extra fees they put in there too. Uh, Everything's negotiable if they want to sell you the unit. And, so many people get snowed into saying, well, I got to do this and here's what you got to have. That's fine. I mean, there's only so much that the dealer can do, and there's a certain amount of profit that they do want to deal with. But uh, uh, you can, I feel like that, like I said, if you see these units in the raw, you'll be way better off than you would be if you saw them, all shiny, detailed out. I mean, most people that have looked at used trucks, you know what I'm talking about. You'll look at them and you go, man, that truck's like a brand new one. No, it's not. Not when you jump in it, you drive it for 1,000 miles, and then the compressor goes out on it, or an alternator goes out on it. The rust starts popping through where it was sprayed over. An airbag leaks. Air lines are leaking. Fuel lines are leaking. I would rather see the problems that they have. If it's got a fuel line leaking, fine, I'll fix that fuel line. At least I will know it before I put it on the road and find out, 6 weeks from now that it's leaking. And then I've got issues with it. Yeah. Well, and everybody, like I said, the biggest thing, uh, yeah, you do. And don't be afraid to walk out. I mean, the worst thing, and don't be coerced. If you let them coerce you into buying, then they've got you. They got the upper hand. To keep the upper hand, you need to be able to, like I said, take emotions out of it. The one thing. I mean, you can't go in. I mean, and this is true for buying a new car, used car, whatever. Take the emotions out of it. Don't say, "Oh man, I got to have that car." This thing. They sell smell on these things too. New cars, especially. You open that up. Oh, isn't that new car smell great? Oh man, I just love it. It just, feel that leather. That's the pizzazz that they've been putting in it for years. If the new cars smelled like they do in the factory before they get their final touch up, nobody would buy them, because then they smell more like something mechanical, something that's oily, something that's uh, not as desirable. They put the smell, they put it's the last bit of spit, shine, and polish on it. They got that material in there so that you get that feeling. Oh man, this is great. This is going to be the best thing for me I've ever had. And it's like a quickie marriage, I guess you might say. I mean, you get into something like this sometimes with vehicles, and it's one of the old what's the old saying? She looked like a they at the bar she looked like a 10, but when you got home the next morning she was more like a 4. You know, and that's what happens. There's a lot of buyer's remorse, as they call it, on cars and everything, and vehicles in general. So it's you don't want to have buyer's remorse with uh, big vehicles, small vehicles, any of them. Yeah, I don't I don't drink, so I don't know I've heard the bar scenario. I've never been a drinker, but I've heard a lot of guys talking about they thought they went home with a 10. They come to find out that they woke up with a 4. Uh, yeah, false advertisement on both parts. But I don't know how much. I don't know if it's good or bad or whatever. What I'm trying to explain how I've done business and the people that I've been successful. But JC in that JC is a very JC will negotiate you to death. Don't if you let JC buy something from you, I swear you'll he'll take your billfold and pay you out of your billfold, and you'll be happy that you left with it. JC's a tough negotiator. He's a tough negotiator, and but he's done well for himself. He's done well for himself, and you know, he's the type that you'll be glad to get your billfold back from him. But he's you know, and it takes that to be prudent like that. You got to be smart. You got to know how to buy. If you buy it, and I've been guilty as much as anybody paying too much for something, and then you really hate it. Then you really hate it, and so you've got to make your money going in basically as much as you do going out because uh, you 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 don't want to get into a situation where you're buying a lot of glitz. Yeah. Well, Chris, I've seen some of Chris's buys. He's done pretty good. Yep. That's about it. Both parties kind of feel like they're hurting a little bit. And you negotiate it to death. And and that and that's what's a good thing. I mean, the more you do, the more of course the better you're going to get at it. The more purchases that you make out there, the better you're going to be at doing it, and you'll see what works for you this time that maybe didn't last time. Same way with going to auctions or a lot of other things too. You know, I, I've got the old saying. Kind of reminds me of what Budget was talking about there. Uh, I bought something a couple of years ago, and I forgot what it was. And a good friend of mine, he was going up to me, and he said, "You mind me asking how much you gave for that?" I said, "Nope, don't mind one bit." Then we kept on going and everything else, and we're talking about other things. And he says, "Well, how much did you pay for it?" I said, "Oh, you thought I was actually going to tell you how much?" I said, "You just asked me if I minded you ask me. I didn't mind you asking me, but I'm not obligated to tell you." So that's that's kind of, hey, Jersey trucker, glad to see you in here. Yeah, that's kind of the way I am. I mean, no, you're not going to offend me by asking me, but hopefully you're not going to be offended if I don't tell you either, because eh, you know, every deal's different, like JC said there, and you need to, you know, or like Kenny Rogers said, you got to know when to hold them, you got to know when to fold them, and if you can do that, then you're going to do pretty good. Uh, being a smart negotiator with trucks and also cars or anything else is that's the fact of life. I like I said, I you just got to get to the point in your life where you don't let emotions get in the way. Uh, and the thing about it, and people don't realize it, that's one of the things that car salesmen are taught, to put the emotion in to the sale. You first want to make sure that they're tickled to death, and that's the kind of, don't ever worry about pricing. Make sure that's the car that they want. They got to have that car, or one just like it. That's what you got to do. Put the emotion in. Oh man, I've got it. I can't live without this car. I've got to have this car. It's the end of end of everything if I don't get this car. And that's what car salesmen want to have you to do. They want you to love to buy that vehicle. And if you do, then that's when the process starts. They know that you're loving that vehicle. Oh, it's great. And then you glaze over. Your eyes glaze over, and then it's go, oh yeah, you want the undercoat? Okay. And yeah, you'd like to have the insurance? Okay. And you can afford how much a month? And a lot of times you'll see them, they won't say, uh, they won't say, I'm gonna sell it to you for this amount. They say, well, how much of a payment can you afford? Well, when they get you on, if you volunteer that much information, at that point, then they're going, okay, do I sell it to them at this for 48 months or this at 60 or on up to 72 months? We can get you in there. It's just going to take you a whole lot longer to pay that thing off. And that's where they get you on that too. So I never volunteer. Actually, I don't even try to negotiate anything on financing at all. That's my deal. Whether I come bring you cash or whatever, or if you can sell me money at a certain price. Yeah, yeah, and that's where they get you. They want to. Um, well, you know, that's what you want to do. You don't want to like I said, in my art of I guess negotiation, you want the art of the deal, as as a one famous person says. Uh, no matter what you're buying, you like I said, if you let your emotions get in there too hard and heavy, then you're gonna they got you instead of you having them. So that's my biggest thing that I could tell you how I do things, and a lot of other people too. And to be successful at things, you can't. You always got to make you take the emotion out, and then you bring the logic in of, uh, I need X, Y, Z, and I'm gonna budget X amount of dollars to this project, no more, no less. I don't want to get into there. If you let somebody make you extend more than what you really need to be putting out, then they're hurting your business. Not only hurting you, but they're hurting your business if you're in there trying to grow a business, because you need to have a budget of what you can and cannot afford. And I've heard some people, like I say, I don't like to uh, say I heard so and so do this, but over the general population of people on YouTube and different things like that, you will hear people come up with their theory of how they've done business, and that's fine. Uh, I think I've been successful. I'm not the smartest guy, but I'm fairly successful at what I do. I've been doing this for this is my 33rd year at FedEx. Uh, I'm the oldest contractor in 3 states that I know of. And I may be more because the older guys like myself are getting out. They're selling off and a few other things. But I feel like that my track record shows that I've been successful. And I say that not as a braggadocious type way. I guess the only thing I'm bragging about is I've survived. I'm not rich. I'm comfortable. Uh, but there's times, even when you're comfortable, you can get yourself stretched more than you want to. And I try my best not to do that. You've got to really work hard at it, not to put yourself in such a bind that you can't make the payments, and there's no way clear on how to make the payments. So you don't want to get into that situation, and you don't want to get into a situation where you walk away from things and cost yourself credit. Uh, you want to you have to work really really hard to keep your credit in A1 shape. Yeah, I mean, my expenses can take over real quick, Ponca. They really can. Uh, I mean, and I've had some of those this past year. I mean, we've had We've had two accidents in the past couple of months that are going to cost me a lot, uh, because both of them, my guys were at fault by, changing lanes and hitting the car beside them. They didn't, for, one guy, somebody had just run up the right lane, come off a ramp, I think, and run up the right lane, and he was in the middle lane, and it was in his blind spot. He could not see that vehicle. And then when he moved over, didn't take but 2 seconds of him against her, or him, or whoever it was. I think it was a lady, that he got up against her and, uh, right down the side of my truck, and tore it up from the front fender to the rear fender. And it's like a knife when you get those aluminum steps sticking out there. It's like taking a razor blade and just slicing down the side of a car, and it's tough. And that's going to cost me. I'm going to end up. That's one of the things we were talking about earlier. My deductible, because that was a truck without the forward collision and a few other things. My deductible jumped to $18,000 on that truck. So I have to pay the first $18,000 out of my pocket for that accident. So you can imagine that one doesn't sit well with me at all. I had a no, I had one that we had one that had a head-on collision that did that. Chris, it was not wasn't a rear end. I had I've had one. Okay, I've had one that caught on fire electrically. That there was in there, and then I've had another one that caught on fire when the turbo popped. Uh, so I've had two. I've had two trucks that burned completely down. I mean, and the one was a turbo, and we didn't get anything on that one. Well, the head-on collision that we had just unfortunately just a few months ago uh, did show exactly that we were in the right, and had we not had the camera, it would have been very iffy. I will say that uh, that one was a real tragedy there. That was a real tragedy, and hated to ever be involved in something like that. But fortunately for us, it did show that our guy was 100% in his lane, and the other guy had passed a couple of vehicles and hit him head on. Yeah, okay. The burnt trucks. Now that's the ones that you saw in my video. That was the one that the camera people wired up the camera wrong, and after the boy took it down the road, the electrical part caught on fire, and they came out and investigated and everything, and they admitted guilt on it. They saw where the guy had done it wrong. I mean, they had forensic. They sent out two investigators, one of their own and one from another insurance. He was just an adjuster, but he was a forensic guy. They went through and took all kind of small details, and was checking the where the flame started and everything else. It was very interesting seeing that. And but they determined that it was the installer of that camera that had gone through and wired it wrong and caught my truck on fire. And they basically bought me a truck. Uh, so yeah, that I kept what was remaining of that truck because we had just overhauled it, and so it was a good engine. I knew the shape of the truck, so I wanted to keep that. So I kept that. So we got it as a spare engine, and yeah, that one's still inside my shop over there. And then I've got another one pulled out that we had that dropped the turbo, and we had just overhauled that engine. But unfortunately, the turbo popped, and when it did, it dropped a ton of oil. It just basically sucked the oil out of that engine and dropped right down in. The guy had been running all day, so he had 400 miles. He had driven that truck that day, and that when that oil hit that exhaust. He called me. He says, "Man, I'm smelling smoke in here." I said, "Pull it over." And he pulled it over, and then he was still on the phone with me. He says, "Man, I see flames coming up under around the transmission." I said, "You park it, get out of it." He said, "Let me get the fire extinguisher." I said, "The hell with the fire extinguisher. You're already past that." He couldn't get out of the truck fast enough. And by the time he got out of the truck, the flames were already engulfing the cab and it was going up. I said, "If you can disconnect from it, disconnect." And he couldn't even disconnect. It was flaming up so bad. And they got the fire department out there and got it. It scorched the front of the trailer, but fortunately, it didn't burn into the trailer. But that was a really costly one too. The with the hazmat, and they towed the truck a mile and a half, and they had the hazmat people out there because it had fuel oil, in the truck. They charged me on that wrecker bill. My part that they charged to my part of the insurance was $11,000, and they pulled the truck and trailer a mile and a half. But that's what hazmat. When you get into hazmat situations, they will eat you alive. And then on top of that, they charge FedEx some money too, because they pulled FedEx's trailers. So I never got the price on that, but I mean, just my part that my insurance had to pay was $11,000, and I lost my keister on that one. But I was able to retain the salvage, which was good on that one too. But rest of it, I lost my keister on that. But you live and learn. Well, yeah. Once now I had that issue. I'll tell you that I had a year. It's been about 7 years ago. I had an issue down in Charlotte where I had a driver. I had a driver that ran over a leaf spring. Somebody had broken a leaf spring, and he hit that leaf spring and punched the bottom of my tank. And he called me, but he called 911 immediately. And when he did that, the fire department was out there fast and furious. And they had a looked like a little kid's swimming pool out there. Is what it looked like. They had that out there underneath my truck, and they were doing it. I got my mechanic, Larry, there. I said, "Larry, let's cut off those lines and everything." And then the hazmat people, they said, "Well, we need to get that fuel." I said, "What do you mean you need to get that fuel?" They said, "Well, we're going to get the fuel out of that truck." I said, "We've cut it off. There's no more leak." I said, "Only in that tank is there leaking." And they said, "Well, we got to have it." I said, "Bullshit." And that's actually what I said too. I said, "You're not getting my fuel out of that other tank." "Oh yeah, we can get that fuel." I said, "For what?" I said, "We have it completely shut off. There is no leakage whatsoever on that side." And they tried to get the cops involved and everything else. They said, "Well, that's hazmat. You can't do that." And I said, "Bull crap." I said, "They're going to charge me to take my fuel, take it back." And I said, "I'm no fool." I said, "Look around here. You got 4 F-350s with rollbacks here. Every one of them's got a diesel in it." I said, "That diesel fuel is not contaminated. You know, and I know where the hell that diesel fuel is going to go. And you damn sure are not going to take out that other 150 gallons on that other tank." I said, "I'll stop it right there." And I said, and by the way, I said, "That 55-gallon drum that you got right there with diesel fuel in it, I want it." I said, "I have a drum right here. We'll get it." And they gave it to me because I was raising Cain about it. And I would have gone to the news media or somebody because I was hot about that. They were not going to get that fuel from me. And I got the fuel. But that's a situation that some of these hazmat people will do. My wife's first cousin, before he passed away, he was a big EPA guy in Raleigh. And he was telling me about that. He was telling me how they did stuff, and I asked him about the contaminated ground and everything. I had one about 25 years ago that did something similar, and they charged me for 55-gallon drums of contaminated soil. And they charged me, what was it? And this has been 20 something years ago. I want to say they charged me $7,500 for those 55-gallon drums of contaminated soil that they dug up with a backhoe. And I asked Johnny, I said, what do they do with that? He said, well, they just take it out, roll it out on a big plastic, black plastic. They dump that soil out there, and they let the sun just let it dry out and let it dissipate. And I said, then they do what? He said, well, then they throw the soil back into other soil. I said, so then the contaminants are gone. I said, wouldn't that do that naturally on the side of the road? He said, yeah, but if the least little drop gets into the water system, they get all bananas. So that's what you get involved with sometimes. So I end up paying a fortune for that. And that, like I said, that in itself, that is a racket. That's a racket right there, is to have hazmat authority to be able to clean up hazmat. But that's the way it goes. Well, guys, I got to get off of here. My wife is kind of dinging me already, so I better get off. I've enjoyed talking tonight. I'll be back on in the morning. So all y'all guys meet up with me in the morning, 9 o'clock. Same bat channel, as you used to say. You have to be old enough to remember that. Same bat channel, same bat frequency, I think. I'll see you at 9 o'clock in the morning. So see you guys.